Hello, testing, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to start with today's agenda. It's going to be easy. Basically, I'm once again very interested in the mental health of one Mr. William Burr, Bill Burr. I once again listened to him talk about the idea that being healthy has something to do with healthy-ish. And anybody who knows me knows that I disagree with that massively. You either eat fried chicken or you don't. And if you don't eat fried chicken, that doesn't mean that you're healthy. And you either are vegan or you are not. And even if you are vegan, that doesn't mean that you are healthy. But it is not a lot of effort to eat a salad a day. He's the one that started me on writing the salad part of my cookbook with only 3 ingredients per salad, because he was complaining that it was so difficult to figure out salad. So I sent him an email with 3 ingredient salad recipes. No response, of course. Of course, he changed his email address for the podcast, but that's neither here nor there. I can resend all the old emails. I'm sure he doesn't read them, so he doesn't mind. But then he says that, it's easier for vegans because they can go out and they can go to vegan restaurants. And no, because most people still believe that the vegan option is a salad. Well, it is. You can have a salad, but you're not full. You're not full. Being on a vegan diet, well, even a vegetarian diet, which is difficult to understand the difference between the two, to be honest. Let's call it a plant-based diet and get rid of the V words. Ultimately, we're talking about a plant-based diet. Now, that doesn't mean that we're walking down the street or I'm walking down the street, because I eat meat. I just don't eat it that often. I can't remember the last time I had a burger. I'd have to think about it. Barbecue was before July 4th, definitely. Did not have a burger on July 4th. Had these little mini hot dogs the other day with some kind of breading, some kind of pickle flavor inside. They were mini. You dipped them in mustard. They were good. We eat burritos. They have meat in them. But it's not that often. Every day that I eat meat is like I remember it. I can't remember if I ate meat yesterday. I had a donut yesterday. Does that count? I can't remember. The point is, Bill Burr, that it's not that easy. Okay? And if you're going to do it, so what? Just do it. But here's the thing. You want to go down that road, I'll tell you what. We'll come to your house and I'll take care of the food for a week and you can eat like me. And Heather will introduce you to the exercise that's going to help you age robustly from 55 onward. And if you're not willing to do that, good luck. I'm not saying that we're the answer. What I'm saying is that somebody's got to offer you something better than an hour a day in the gym with a personal trainer, trying to figure out what percentage of your body weight you should be able to lift over your head. I mean, come on. The green shirt diet, I'm down with that. I have pieces of clothing. I have a blue shirt that I know that fitting into that is a lot better. But I mean, we've been doing this sort of 80% vegan diet for, over a year now. And I can tell you that I am stronger and I am healthier. I am sleeping better. My eyes are clearer. I mean, it is outrageous. My skin is better. I know I need a haircut, but ignore all that. And then I wonder, if it's okay to talk about the idea, and I don't know if it's okay because it's got nothing to do with me, but they don't talk about food enough on Weekend Update. I mean, I would like to know. I would like to know a little bit more about what Michael Che eats and when he eats. I think that's news. I mean, they want to make jokes about current events. Sure, it's fine. It's the same model that's been there all that time, and it works. No one's going to argue with Lorne Michaels and how he wants to run the show, except for me if I was there. And then, of course, I would be openly belligerent to the idea that, he doesn't know what he's talking about, because he does know what he's talking about. 100% he knows what he's talking about. He knows what he's talking about more than I know what I'm talking about, and I know what I'm talking about. I mean, the thing is that most people who don't know what they're talking about, who end up there, they either end up knowing what they're talking about or they end up not on the cast. I mean, I don't know what to say. But what I can say is that I'd like to know more about what Michael Che eats. I don't want to know what Colin Jost eats. I can't imagine what kind of conflict he has at home, where he's being given food that he doesn't like, food that he doesn't recognize, food that he knows Michael Che wouldn't eat, and then he gets to work and he's living vicariously through what Michael Che is eating. I mean, you can imagine what it must be like. Did you have a burger today? Yes, I had a burger today. What'd you have on it? I just had cheddar. I had some caramelized onions. I had it on a Kaiser roll. I got it from, the deli that I always go to. I don't know what to tell you, but I think that when Michael Che eats a salad, I think that's news. That's got to be news. Just like when Bill Burr eats a salad, I think he should tell us that he ate a salad. I think it's the same thing with Michael Che. I want to know what the guy eats. I'm sorry, I do. I want to know what everybody eats. I want to know what you ate today. I spend all my time thinking about food, and food determines my mood. People would say that those are the roots of an eating disorder, and it probably is. I have a massive eating disorder. I eat when I eat something I like, I'm happy, and when I'm going to eat something I'm extra happy. I had donuts yesterday. I was ecstatic. I was in a great mood. Had something called the Boston cream donut, which we would not call it that in New York because the word Boston doesn't exist when you live in Queens, New York. And even in 1986, they weren't the Boston Red Sox, they were the Red Sox. And, the critical mass is that it was a taste of my childhood. It really was. That donut with the custard inside and the fluffiness and the chocolate on top, the rich, dark chocolate, you bite into it and a little bit gets here into the corner of my mouth. That's the taste of my childhood. Because if an adult was smart enough, that's what I made them buy me. What do you want? That, a custard donut, a chocolate custard donut. I don't want a powdered sugar custard donut. Powdered sugar custard donuts or regular sugar custard donuts, they don't work. Jam, you want to put jelly, sure, go ahead, no problem. And yes, I put peanut butter on jelly donuts. I'm sorry, I do. In England, they have raspberry inside. It's disgusting. It's too sweet. Strawberry works. Strawberry Smuckers works. Grape Smuckers works. Crunchy peanut butter works. Creamy peanut butter works. Skippy, Jif, Peter Pan. I didn't get a lot of that when I was a kid. So as an adult, peanut butter is the answer. But I mean, really, when I go back to the roots, when I'm myself, okay, when I'm honest with myself about who I really am, I mean, how often are we honest with ourselves about who we really are? I don't know. But all I know is that when I'm honest with it, it's a Boston cream donut or a custard donut that matters. Right off the bakery from Union Turnpike. That's the one. That's the one. So I emailed Bill Burr again this morning because I had used the old email address to pitch him Daddy-Daughter Day with Kevin Hart. And now he's gone and mentioned Daddy-Daughter Day on his podcast today, July the 24th. So I've gone and emailed them on the new email address, which he finally gave out on the podcast, and told them, look, daddy-daughter day. It's him and Kevin Hart. It's, competing, trying to have better daddy-daughter days than the other one. And then, they don't know that behind their backs, their families are bonding and becoming friends. They have no idea. But, when you pitch Kevin Hart, you have to ironically use the phrase hilarity ensues, because he knows that means that, hilarity does not ensue. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to get the guy to understand that you hear him and that you listen to him. And if Bill Burr does that, I think that Daddy-Daughter Day is a franchise. I think it's a hit. And, if he wants to save his career, I think he should go ahead and do something about that. I'm not saying he has a bad career. He has a great career. He does shows. He's in movies. He does stuff. He was on Star Wars the other day. It's great. I think he should redo The Friends of Eddie Coyle, Rats on Fire. He's just read Man's Search for Meaning, but I don't think he should do that documentary. But the idea that he could play the same kind of Kurt Vonnegut, white T-shirt, beer drinking guy who discovers meaning in his life as in Breakfast of Champions, I think that he could pull that off. But then again, he has a lot of jobs. He's a father, and he's a husband, and he's a comedian, and he's a traveler, and he's a podcast star. He's on other people's podcasts, plus he does his own. He's a broadcaster. He should definitely do that wrestling TV show where he talks about the history of wrestling and interviews the wrestlers about what was going on in the ring. He could do that thing about the history of sports where he talks about individual sports franchises and what their history is. I would love to see his episode on the Los Angeles Rams, who he hates, by the way. I can just tell. He never said it. I never heard him say it, but I can just tell. I can tell when people hate the Rams. I could tell when people hated the Rams when they were first in LA. I could tell when people hated the Rams when they were in St. Louis. I could tell when people hate the Rams now. I can tell. It's like knowing that people don't like the Mets. It's the same. I know. I see it. I can feel it. They like winners. They like trophies. They like rings and medals and stars and amazing nights in August and September when they're clinching pennants and running around being happy. That's what they love. I don't like that stuff. I prefer to watch the Mets win 6 in a row and still be 9 games out of first place. Things got so bad with the biggest payroll in baseball that they won 6 in a row and everybody started to think that the season was turning around. And sure enough, all that happened was that they remained 9 games out of first place. But I don't need a part-time job as a sportscaster. I don't need a part-time job. Being a Mets fan is a part-time job. Just like being a chef is a part-time job. Being a chef for myself, being a chef in a relationship, being in a relationship is a part-time job. Sleeping is a part-time job. They tell me I got to get more of that. That's 8 hours a night, sometimes 9. Now, all of a sudden, my other jobs are suffering. And I'm coming to myself and I'm saying, perform better as a writer. You get 4 hours a day. That's all we ask. It's 7 days a week. That's 28 hours a week. That's all we're asking for. But that's a part-time job. That only leaves you with 140 hours. 7 times 8 is 56 for sleep minus 140 is what? Anybody? 84. 84 hours to do all of the other part-time jobs, other write and sleep, and be in a relationship and have relationships with other people. That's time too. It's one part-time job after another. We all have them. Meditating is a part-time job. Wellness is a part-time job. Our teeth, part-time job. Hair on my body, shaving my head, the little lines, the hair in my ears and my nose, all a part-time job. Maintenance, part-time job. My body is a city, part-time job. There's a municipal department, there's a mayor. Hey, We need some buffet. You got to stand in line. He's got fingernails to cut, and he's got a denouement to craft. I mean, what do you want? Composting. Composting is a part-time job. And sometimes you're sitting there and you're chopping vegetables for salad, and you're saying to yourself, is there as much composting coming from the salad as there is stuff going on the plate? Yeah, maybe. That might be true. And you might be chopping, but the problem is that you're not going to use all of the vegetable. And we don't want food companies, we want organic. So that means we're going to get the whole vegetable, and we have to decide what we're going to eat. And you can't eat all of it, so you compost it, and compost. That's another thing. Recycling, that's another part-time job. Separating, I'm washing plastic containers out so that I can recycle them, and I'm keeping paper dry, and I'm folding, and I'm creating opportunities to recycle, because you can't always do it when you're on your way out the door because you're carrying something. So you got to plan 5 minutes before you're going to go out of the door that you got to go out the door, and you got to go and recycle. So you got to go to the recycling bins, and then you got to come back. And then when you come back, you got to wash your hands. So now you got to wash your hands. And if you're like me and you have dry skin on your hands, you got to put lotion on your hands. Then you got to wait 2 minutes. Moisturizing is a part-time job, by the way. Face, different moisturizer than hands. Got to keep the hands moisturized. You can see I have a piece of tape on my hand today because I'm trying to heal a part that I didn't moisturize enough yesterday. I know. I'm moisturizing. Much better than it was. The mold in England. The mold, just mushrooms growing out of the wall. You could do a fricassee. New York Times published an article how many years ago? 25 years ago, telling us that recycling was a waste of time, that the amount of energy that we use in order to recycle has a bigger impact than if we didn't just recycle. But we're burning stuff in landfills if we don't recycle. Articles came out of England a couple of years ago that the councils who were forcing people to recycle at their homes were just collecting all the stuff and burning. I mean, a couple of places around here in California, we found out that they're not recycling. They're not separating trash. It's all just for show. You put the stuff in, and it all goes to the same place. It either goes to a landfill or it goes to be burned. That's a part-time job. Worrying about that. So if we don't recycle and we create more rubbish and it goes to a landfill and it gets burned, are we having the same impact as if we do recycle? And then the recycling takes more energy than if we didn't recycle? Maybe. But that's because we still think of things in terms of sustainability, ESG, sustainability. On the cover of Wired the other day, they were asking if ESG was dead. Ethics of sustainability and governance. Well, it's not sustainability anymore. Nike, who don't pay their taxes, also lead the way in the way we think about 90% of the things on the earth. And that includes something called circularity, which means that they say they can make one pair of shoes out of 6 plastic bottles. But what I want to know is how come I can't bring 6 plastic bottles to a Nike store, pay a fee, and get some shoes? Make it their problem. Because they don't want them, because they have enough plastic bags, because I think John Hoke III has some explaining to do. That's the guy who's in charge of the circularity. I don't know what Tinker Hatfield does anymore. I mean, I'm sure that he works there, and he's in the innovation kitchen, and he's Mr. Senior Vice President, but I haven't heard from him in years. But yeah. I mean, that 6 plastic bottles thing that John Hoke III said, the most interesting thing about that to me is I went to the Saatchi Gallery in London the day of the Wimbledon final 2015. And I went downstairs to see the oil, which is down there. Everybody should go. But then there was a installation by a local artist where they had collected all of the plastic for 1 week. That them and their family had used, them and their neighbors had used something. It wasn't that many people. It filled a room the size of center court at Wimbledon. That's how big it was. It was huge. It was huge. I think they created the equivalent weight in plastic, the equivalent length and breadth in plastic as they needed to recycle. And this thing was as big as center court in Wimbledon. And then I thought about Wimbledon and how they've got the grass courts and the white outfits and the sunshine and the Ralph Lauren suits and the hill and the grounds and the trees and the roof and the tennis rackets and the WTA. And I'm thinking to myself, how much trash do they produce every Wimbledon? 2 weeks. And they're going to produce even more trash than they normally would. Same thing with the US Open, same with the Australian Open, same with the French Open. How do we know that if we cancel tennis, we wouldn't have a climate emergency going on? The world wouldn't be on fire. How do we know that? Have we tried? I mean, look at baseball. I mean, look at organized sports. Are they paying for the, I mean, they certainly burn more than 4,730 light bulbs a year, which is, by the way, the actual energy usage and impact that each of us has every year. We burn 4,730 light bulbs each, and I'm guaranteeing you that if you're a professional athlete and you work for the Los Angeles Rams, I love them so I can name them. You are definitely, I see, this is what they should report on Weekend Update. How much impact they're having. I think everything should have to tell us, I think everyone should have to tell us what their number is. How many light bulbs did you burn in the last 12 months? That's what I want to know. Me, I've got an unnecessary light on behind me. I'm sitting here using the internet. Got to be at least 7. On top of the 7 that I burn every day, on top of the 22 that I'm burning perpetually by living in this world, because even though I compost and I recycle, even doing this mathematics that Tom Papa tells me not to do, I do. Because everybody should know what the impact is they're having on everybody else, emotionally, environmentally, physically. And that's why I name names. That's why I say things. I know people don't like when their names are used, but they are. My name is Martin Johnstone, and I'd like to thank you for your time.